Many viewers of my YouTube channel have asked me in their comments about natural immunity. Now, we have not talked much about this topic. We have talked a lot about antibody levels after vaccination, after booster doses, what happens to these antibody levels over time. But we haven't really talked much about antibody levels among unvaccinated people who have recovered from a COVID-19 infection. Well friends, hello, I'm Naveen Agarwal, and in this video, I want to share with you a recent report that I just read in the Journal of American Medical Association from researchers at Johns Hopkins University, where they are presenting data of antibody levels among unvaccinated people who have recovered from a COVID-19 infection or based on their self-reported COVID-19 status. It's very interesting information. I'll share that with you, a high-level summary and my perspective. But this video is not about the debate between getting the vaccine or not getting the vaccine, masking up or not masking up. For those of you who are familiar with this channel, know that we mostly talk about information and data published in good technical and medical journals, understand that, analyze that, and share with you in a simple, easy to understand way. So you can decide for yourself what is the best course of action, understanding this information, understanding the guidance from our health authorities, which is based on science and data. But at the end of the day, you decide based on your individual assessment and after consulting with your doctor. That is what our intent is. We are not going into the debate that is raging on media and social media. Okay, so let's look into this report that is fascinating and share a few key findings and perspectives. So understanding infection-induced natural immunity, and I put that in quotes because this term natural seems to have a connotation in our public conversation, which is leading many to believe that this is better in some ways than vaccine-induced immunity. So I want to separate the two. Here we're going to talk about infection-induced immunity among people who were not vaccinated. So this is study by researchers at Johns Hopkins. They were able to recruit about 1,500, but only 800 of them were tested for antibody levels in the September to November 2021 timeframe. So the data is about 800 people. They were all recruited via social media. They were self-reported as unvaccinated. And they also self-reported their COVID-19 status and mask usage. So based on that information, they were divided in three groups. Group 1 was confirmed. That means these people had a positive COVID test. Unconfirmed, they believed they were positive, but they never tested. And no COVID, they believed they were negative and never tested. So there were three groups based on what information these people provided in the questionnaire. Antibody levels were tested and two types of antibody testing was done. Qualitative anti-nucleocapsid and semi-quantitative anti-spike receptor binding domain antibodies. 99% of the confirmed group had these RBD, anti-spike RBD antibodies. 55% of the unconfirmed group and 11% in the no COVID group tested positive for anti-spike RBDs. And these anti-spike RBD levels stayed positive after 20 months of this reported COVID-19 diagnosis. So bottom line is that yes, antibody levels were detected and they were higher among those who were confirmed COVID-19. In general, the antibody levels were higher, and a higher proportion of those who tested positive or confirmed COVID had antibodies. But even those who did not believe they had COVID and never tested also had antibodies. So as you can see, they probably had some infection and they was asymptomatic. They had no reason to believe they never got tested. But that's why there was a distribution of antibody levels. But the key piece of information here is that the antibody levels were still there. They were still positive after 20 months. But again, this was self-reported. So we don't know for sure if this 20 months is exactly 20 months or not, but they remained quite durable. That's the conclusion we are making. So here's a perspective. I say proceed with caution. It's good news. Good news, but don't assume these results can be generalized. There's no direct confirmation or correlation with a neutralization assay. This is just antibody testing. There is a neutralization assay that is performed in controlled studies where they are developing a correlation between total antibody levels and a fraction of those which are actually neutralizing the virus. That information is important. Antibody levels don't directly correlate with immunity. We know that. Not a controlled study. It has unknown sampling bias and it's not representative of all demographic profiles. In fact, a great majority. These were like self-reported data, self-reported information, recruited from social media. So only a subset of the demographic was represented and most of them were whites and healthy people. No information on breakthrough infection. Here's a link and I'll give you this link to the paper as part of this video in the notes. So how do we understand this information? First thing is, it's very difficult to do a controlled study, unlike a clinical trial, which is the gold standard. And that's why we have reliable information on vaccines and boosters. Unlike that, it is very difficult to do a controlled study of unvaccinated people. However, it's a good start. And it's telling us that indeed, after recovering from a infection and you're not vaccinated, you will have antibodies in your system. That is logical, very logical. But it is putting some numbers behind those, expectation of how many people will have those antibodies. So you will have antibodies, but I say proceed with caution. So I don't want us to review this information and make the conclusion that it is not worth taking the risk of getting vaccinated as a preventive measure. It's okay to have this naturally acquired or infection acquired immunity. For some, yes, but for a lot of other people who have underlying health conditions or at high risk of severe disease, that may not be a very good risk-based decision. And again, we are not saying one way or the other. We are trying to build some perspective around it. Talk to your doctor before you make a final decision. Final point. I'm very fascinated by this study and I will continue to keep an eye out on this type of research being published in good journals and bring to you so that all of us continue to stay informed and understand what is going on and what conclusions we can make at a personal level to continue to protect us and our own family members. Please share in your comments below your thoughts, your questions, your perspectives, your insights, and let's have a good discussion. Thank you so much for your attention, and all of you, please stay safe.